guys, welcome to the Work the Web interview series where I shine the light on different strategies you can use to help you grow your business online in a way that makes sense for you. So there isn't only one right way to take advantage of the online world. So I'm interviewing over 11 experts that focused on one thing, and that one thing helped them grow their business in ways that they couldn't even imagine. So today I'm here with special guest Brittney from BrittneyLynn.com, and we're going to be talking all about how focusing on PR can help you grow your business online. But before we get into that, let me just introduce myself really quick in case you're new around here. So I'm Mariah, a website strategist over at MariahMagazine.com, where I work with online business owners to help them get more website traffic and improve their SEO by creating a website strategy that's unique to their business goals and their ideal audience. So Brittney, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. We go way back. I feel like it's like, we met maybe like 2 years ago or something, but it feels like it was like 2 minutes ago. I think so. We should go back. We should go back after and like look whenever we first started emailing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyways, so like Mariah mentioned, I do PR for online entrepreneurs. So most of my work is in the done-for-you service-based business where I become their PR person, their publicist, whether it's pitching them for podcast interviews, online publications, influencer marketing, print magazines, everything in between, all things PR. And I started my business about 3.5 years ago. And I didn't start out in PR, which we can talk about if we want.
Yeah.
I kind of fell into PR. And yeah, that's me. And about 50% of the clients that I work with are service-based business owners, and the other half are physical product-based business owners. And a lot of those physical product ones are in the gift and stationery industry. So that's who I work with. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you get started in the online business world? We might as well dive right in.
Let's just start from the beginning. You know, I was born April 13th. No, just kidding.
It was a rainy day.
It was a rainy day. Yeah. So I graduated with a PR degree, and in my corporate jobs, I always worked in marketing, PR, social media, that sort. So I had the industry background in a variety of different corporate jobs. And then my husband got a job. We lived in Wisconsin right out of college. And then my husband got a job down in Dallas. And while we were in Wisconsin, we were paying off all of our debt. And so just the timing happened where our last debt payment was the month that we were moving down here. And so I had to quit my job anyways, because we were moving across the country. And I had always kind of like wanted to entertain working for myself. And this was like a do as I say, not as I do. Like I had dreamed about working for myself, but I never really thought much past that of like what it is that I would actually do or offer or sell where like people would pay me to do something.
It's like you just roll out of bed and you're like, hey, guess what? Today I'm my own boss.
Yeah, no, literally. And so I was just like, that was, I don't know if it was like a subconscious thing of like, I wouldn't let myself go there. I don't know. So we moved down here and I was like, okay, cool. I have like no job and I don't know anybody and like, I don't know how to start a business. Like I've like listened to podcasts and like read all these things. But it's different than like actually implementing it. So pulling on like my background and experience, like it was logical that I would do marketing or social media or something in that realm because that's what I had experience doing. So the first year-ish, I basically did like everything under the sun. Like I
feel like that's like how a lot of us kind of started.
Yes, honestly, I feel like it's one of the best ways to do it because you figure out like what you're good at and also what you like to do and what you don't like doing. And you just like, sometimes you just got to dive in. I feel like people get really wrapped up in like the starting phase of like everything has to be perfect. And like I did that like with my website.
Yeah.
I took forever and I spent so much time perfecting the dumbest of things. And it was just really a way of like holding myself back. Like you just got to jump in and just do it sometimes.
And just test it and tweak it and figure it out. And I think that a lot of us, like, it's like we don't trust ourselves at first. But
no,
like in the
that's
reality
such a good way of putting it. Yes.
Like in the reality of things, like we've made it this far. Life is full of problems and all of us have found these solutions to work through the problems. So owning a business, like, it's scary because it's your financial stability, but like, bet on you. Because like, you're a problem solver.
Right.
Everybody is. Like,
yeah, you will figure it out. And sometimes it's like, you don't know what you don't know until you experience something with it. So,
oh my God, I literally say that all the time. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you realize that you don't know it.
yeah. And then you know it and you're like, okay, great. I can take this piece of information, learn from it, and move forward. So,
and then go into another situation that I don't know, because that's just what happens.
Exactly. So honestly, like, I wouldn't have ever, like, I didn't start my business being like, I want to offer PR services. And I think if I would have gone about business the wrong way. Like, how I fell into it, I saw a demand in the market that like I didn't know existed until people started coming to me. And then business just grew from there. Like, it grew so rapidly that honestly it became too much. And like, I had too many people, which I know is something that I don't like. I feel kind of weird saying, because I know so many people struggle with like getting clients and getting consistent clients and getting like good paying clients and all that kind of stuff. But like, I just saw this opportunity where a couple people asked me like, hey, will you pitch me to podcasts? And like, going back to like before I started my business, like, podcast was my way into learning about this whole world. And I listen to podcasts like pre-serial. I feel like there's like pre-serial podcasts and like post-serial, when like everybody's just started learning about
cereal, like cereal that you eat, like
no,
cereal?
like serial, like the podcast. Have you never listened to it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm literally like, so are we talking Honeycrisp?
People watching, people listening, like, please, like, leave your comments, because so Serial was a podcast that was created from the This American Life. It was like a kind of a spin-off.
Can you spell it? Can you just spell it?
Like serial, like serial killer.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
So that podcast basically blew up like the podcasting industry and like made it more mainstream. So before that, like, podcasts existed, but they weren't as popular. Like, people didn't know what they were, or
people weren't like listening to podcasts like on a road trip.
No, they were listening to music or the radio, but they didn't. Okay. Most people didn't know what a podcast was. So I started listening before podcasts got popular.
You have some dirt on your shoulder that you might just want to like brush off really quick.
So anyways, so a lot of the podcasts that these couple clients wanted to be pitched to, I had already listened to, and like, I knew them inside and out. Like, I knew what would be attractive to them. I knew what they would want to be pitched on. And so I was like, this sounds like a dream job. Like, you're going to pay me to do this? Like, this sounds great.
Yeah, like, I listen to podcasts. Yeah, for sure.
I listen to these. Like, I know what they're going to want. Like, this is easy. Like, this sounds great. And then from there, it just grew like referral based. So like, the couple of clients that I worked with, they referred me to their network. Then they referred me to their network. And the reason why it kept growing was, of course, one, I was doing a good job, but two, I don't have a ton of competition in the market that I help, because from a PR perspective, there's a ton of like higher end PR.
Can you really quick just run through like a definition of what like PR is considered?
That's good point. Let me reel back. So PR stands for public relations. And basically what that means is exactly what it sounds like. Like, you are relating to the public. So you are basically getting in front of somebody else's audience and sharing whatever message it is that you have, whatever service that you provide, whatever products that you provide, however you help people, you're sharing that message in front of another person's audience.
So it's like a fancy way of saying like a collaboration, essentially?
Kind of. So when it comes to like, you know, print magazines or like editorial, I guess those could be collaborations as well. I guess that could be a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So when I talk about PR and what falls under like the PR umbrella, that can mean anything from like getting interviewed on a podcast. Like, you are getting interviewed in front of somebody else's audience and you're going to get to share your message with them. Okay. Or getting quoted in a publication. So like Forbes or Entrepreneur, like, you are getting quoted as an expert in their publication. You're going to be, your name is going to be exposed to their readers.
Everybody reading that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Or influencer marketing. You are working with an influencer. They're using your products or services and sharing it with their audience of people.
Okay.
local TV, national TV. It's all kind of the same. There's obviously like different, strategies that you can use for each of those. But it's basically getting in front of somebody else's audience. So this is a PR opportunity for me to be doing this interview with you, because I'm getting in front of an audience that might not know me. And the value behind that, and why I really feel like it's important, especially for online entrepreneurs and especially for people that are just starting out. I think a lot of people think of like, oh, I have to get to like this status to like utilize
I initially had that thought before me and you connected. I was like, well, I'm not Neil Patel, so like,
yeah, like I have to be around for like 25 years and like, have been in business for 10, like all these things. And that's so not true, because one of the best things is that like PR is free for the most part. Now, when you go into influencer marketing, it gets a little gray with payment and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are like some podcasts that make you pay to be a guest. I have thoughts on that, but for the most part, like being interviewed on a podcast, getting quoted in a publication, having an editorial written about you, like those opportunities are free, which is why it's like, it's so great for smaller online entrepreneurs, because it's like, you only have so much money that you can spend. And you want to be really cognizant of where you're spending your money. And it can be a lot more effective than other marketing opportunities. Now, I don't want to say that like, don't do paid social media advertising, or don't do paid advertising, or don't, like, I'm not saying that those things don't have a place. However, like nothing beats like building relationships with other people. And honestly, like that's what I do for my job, is just like, I get to talk to other people and like connect people, which is like a dream job. Like, it's like, wow, people pay me to do this. This is great.
Yeah.
But like telling your story and getting to share your experience and how you came to become this business owner in the world and why you do this service or why you offer this product, that's always going to be a lot more valuable to the audience member that's listening to it than just seeing a paid ad on Facebook for and again, I don't want this to sound like there is a time and a place, and PR can work with all these other marketing opportunities like email, your website, and there's definitely stuff that you need to have in place on your website and on the back end of your business before you start utilizing PR for your business. So I don't want this to be, I don't want like, a social media specialist or something being like, it's crazy. Like they all work together, but PR is really how you can tell your story. And that's how humans relate to other humans, is just
and you're like
telling and connections.
You're like inspiring people with your story, because it's relatable, it's authentic. It's not seeing an Instagram ad that's like, buy my thing. It's like, hey, this is how I started, and maybe you have a similar starting point, and maybe this can motivate you, or you can learn from how I connected the dots from A, B, and C, and maybe get some ideas from that type thing. And that's where a lot of the value comes in. It's like sharing your experience and essentially how you solved your problems so that you can inspire and motivate people to solve their problems.
And especially like from the relationship building piece, whether you're building a relationship with a journalist or a podcast host or an influencer or just another business owner, like those don't go away. So like it can only really get better for the most part. Of course, some relationships go south, but for the most part, like you keep good relationships with people. So it's like, whoever you meet, there might be somebody that you meet in the future that it's going to be like, hey, Brittney, like I met Tina, she works for entrepreneur.com. Like you guys should be connected. I know you guys would get along well. Like it just like keeps building on itself. So nothing beats like relationship building and making actual human connections. And that's why I really love using PR as a way to get people to know about my business as well as to get my clients' messages out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's so important. And especially like all the tips that you have on like how to get started and stuff like that, which I'm sure that we will dive into a little bit. So in terms of like you growing your business, like I know that you said that you had too many clients at one point. Do you think that that was like one of the biggest growing pains? And like, how did you fix that?
Yeah, so it was, so most of my clients are retainer clients where they start with me and we don't really stop.
Okay.
Most clients
Which,
don't.
I mean, which is awesome because
Which is
it's like,
great. Yes.
they start to see the value, and they're like, I'm like, I can't live without Brittney and
Right.
her
Yeah.
services.
Which is very great. But at the same time, with the service that I provide, like I only have so much time. And I had went through some like phases of like, I was hiring on some team members and some of them didn't work out. But I was still like taking on clients, and I kind of just didn't know my limit. It's like sometimes you have to hit your limit or go way past it to realize, oh, that was my limit, like 2 miles.
That was my limit way back there. How do I get back there?
Yeah. So I was taking on like almost like a client per month, which people that work in the client like based industry, it's a lot to take on a new client. Like even if you love them and you're obsessed with them and you're so excited about them, like it's just you're learning each other, and
It's that whole foundation that you have to set up.
Setting the foundation, it's working out the kinks. And especially for how the process works for when I onboard clients, the first month is very heavy and there's a lot going on. I kind of kept taking on like a new client, but like none of them were falling off.
Yeah.
And I was also trying to like market my business, like doing podcast interviews. And so then I would be getting more people.
So like your PR was working.
Like PR was working, but then I was like, oh crap. Like, I don't know what to do with all you people. So it was around September 2018, I hit a wall, and I was just like, I gotta reel it back. Like,
I think that I remember that. I think that you posted something about it maybe on like Instagram, and you were like, your girl needs a break.
I need a break. I'm not going to be on here. So I took out like all of it. I wasn't posting on social media. I wasn't sending email newsletters to my list. I was just like,
you burned out,
hunkering down and just like doing the work that I needed to do, but like removing everything else. I didn't do any discovery calls. I didn't do anything, any interviews like this. I just like, I had to cut out everything to figure out, okay, how can I come back to do those things? Because it wasn't that I didn't enjoy doing those things. Like I love doing this stuff. I love going on Instagram stories, like all that kind of stuff. But I needed to remove all of the clutter for me to be like, okay, how can I narrow in and how can I make my business work where I can still grow, but not like have no life?
It's such an important thing to learn when you own a business, because like you're so passionate about what you're doing. You want to help all these people. You want to solve all the problems. But then it's like, wow, I'm still a human that also needs a life.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, I know some people that they can work like 16-hour days, like, and stay up all night and like do all that stuff. And like,
that sounds awful.
Good for you. Not for me. I just,
yeah.
I can't do it. I was a shell of a human being. And so from September to about like February, I was just like, okay, who are the people that I like absolutely love working with, and who can I like not let go of? And then there were some clients, like once I started like putting it out there of like, okay, I'm going to take care of myself, things just, and I don't know, like if people are watching or like, the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
Like some clients, like they just fell off. Like I didn't have to have like a difficult conversation with them or anything like that. It was just like, they were going one way and I was going another. And it was like, okay, great. So it's like, that gave me some more opportunity. There were a couple of clients that I let go of because I didn't think they were a fit, but I found someone that was honestly even better than I was, that was going to be a fit for their situation. So I really I took down the amount of one-on-one clients I was working with, because I got to the point where I could have easily grown like a huge agency where it's like, we have 50 clients and I have all these team members, and then I'm just like the CEO and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And I had to admit that to myself, which was difficult because I feel like you have this idea in your head of like, this is the thing that I want. And then I was like,
Yeah. And then especially in the online world, pushing agency, like pushing like, hey, grow an agency. This is how you make more money, add more people on. And for some people, like I actually interviewed Miranda from mirandanamas.com.
Yeah.
Yep. She grew a team and she loves it. She's stoked about it. So like we went through like, the pros of doing that. And like, and if that's the way that you want to grow your business, you can absolutely be successful that way.
100%.
But
100%.
you also don't have to. Like me, for example, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
So,
I don't either. And it was really telling because so December 2018 was my highest revenue month. And I also was still like climbing my way out of this, like,
and then you're like looking at how much you made and you're like, oh.
yeah, well, yeah. And it's like, it's tough because it's like, well, this is nice, but it's also like, is it worth like me just like feeling like I'm just drowning every day and I have so much anxiety when I go to sleep? Like, it's not worth it that to me. That's not why I built my own business.
I was going to say that's not why you became your own boss.
No, it's not. And so then made like a little less like over the last few months, and then May 2019 I've had my highest month. I beat December.
Congratulations.
And I've had less clients, and it's not necessarily about like the money. Of course the money is great.
Yeah.
But it's more so proven to me that like I can have a very successful business, but I can also like be me, and I can have a life, and I don't have to be sucked into this. I have to work all the time. But honestly, truly, like I had to get to that point, I think, to be able to realize that. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to learn the easier way of like, hey, just don't take on as many clients and just like slow down.
You don't know until you go through it, until you hit that wall to where you're like, okay, I can't continue to go on this way.
Right.
So I need a solution. So there has to be another solution.
Right. And maybe there can be somebody that's like watching or listening that like, you're going to take my advice and learn from me, and like, please do that. It sucked. But also I understand that sometimes you just have to live it, and like, you don't know your personal limits until you hit them.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's such amazing advice that I think would definitely benefit people if they could, like, if we could listen and learn. But I feel like a lot of times we have to be stuck in it in order to really, really learn from the experience.
Yeah.
So everybody listening, even if you're like going through this now, like, it's normal. I think that most of us in business, this happens. But the cool thing is that there's so many other solutions, even if you're not seeing them right now.
Totally. And I think what's interesting is I work with a variety of entrepreneurs, and some of them have been in business much longer than I have. A few of them have been in business, around the same amount of time that I have. And they're at all different levels where, some of them 6, 7-figure, 8-figure business owners. Everyone hits it. Like, all the time. Honestly, I'm probably going to hit it again. Like, because I'm a human being.
It's just growing.
I just like can't learn. But like, no matter what type of business you run, no matter how many years you've been in business, no matter how big or small your team is, like, these things are going to happen, which I found a little bit of comfort in, of just like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, I'm not weird. This is just what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. It's totally normal. And not just in online business. I think almost in every kind of brick and mortar business.
Oh, too. For sure. I mean, several of my clients, they also have a brick and mortar business as well, in addition to an online. And that is something that it's like, I don't think I could ever do, because it seems like the hardest job ever, because you're just always have to be there.
And I'm really glad that I can roll out of bed in my pajamas.
Yep.
I agree. Probably.
Today I got like dressed because, it's like coming on camera, but like tomorrow when I have no meetings, like, that's not happening.
Hair tied, makeup off. Like, it's just like, what's up, inbox? And you're just like hanging out, staring at your computer screen for a bit. Okay. So I know that you work with online business owners to help them create their own like PR strategy. What do you think the biggest misconception people seem to have about starting out with PR is?
I think a lot of people misconceive of like, if I just get this one PR hit, like if I just get in BuzzFeed, if I just get in Forbes, or, if I just make it onto this huge podcast, like that will make my business. And while certain opportunities can definitely give you a jump in sales, I have a lot of clients where it's like they were mentioned, in like a BuzzFeed roundup or something, and they saw a significant jump in sales for that day. It's not necessarily like it doesn't last forever, because just the nature
there is that jump.
Well, people consuming content, like you move on to the next thing. So you see a jump, but it doesn't make you for the rest of your life. You have to continue to work, and you have to continue to at it. And so that's why a lot of people, most people that I start with, like, that's why they stay on, because they know and they understand that PR is really a long-term strategy, and like you're gonna get like endorphin hits like along the way where you're gonna see those sales jump. But at the same time, like but there's just so much content out there that people are consuming. I mean, if you're just scrolling on your newsfeed, like you're seeing new stuff all of the time. And
literally like every time you blink.
Yeah, I mean, it's
something new.
It's almost oversaturated, which I mean, I don't want to say that because there's always like room out there for new content. But yeah, it's really an ongoing strategy if you want to continue to see efforts.
Which is why these relationships are so important.
Exactly, because that is something that isn't going to go away. Like, you know, we met 2 years ago and like now we're doing this. I couldn't have predicted this 2 years ago, but it was just like, hey, I think we were in like a Facebook group together and we paired up to do something. And now we're still friends to this day. Who knows what we're going to be doing 2 years from now?
Yeah, for sure.
So those things just like keep on, like the relationships keep building, but you know, the press hits and some things can last a little bit longer. Like I still have podcast interviews that I did over a year ago that I still get clients from, or that I still get sales from.
Which is really awesome. Yeah. Especially if like whoever you're doing the PR for, or like collaborating with, like if they keep promoting that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
awesome.
A lot of the stuff, especially for like podcasts, even publications, like getting quoted and stuff, like those can be evergreen things where it's like, it doesn't necessarily, like it doesn't go old. It's just, it can exist for as long as it needs to.
Yeah. And then you can continue to promote that too.
Exactly. Oh yeah. I'm constantly promoting like old podcast interviews I did because the content's still relevant. I don't say anything that's super timely in it. So there are things that can last longer, but like I saw the biggest jump when the interview first came out because they've produced more episodes since then. So they're going to be promoting those new episodes. So I think that's the biggest misconception is like, well, if I just make it into New York Times, and there's, you know, there can be priorities on things where it's like this big hit will really like help us go to the next level. It'll really help our brand be a lot more visible.
Yeah. However, and like, or even gaining trust. Because
absolutely.
Some of them, in order to pitch to other people, they have to know that you know what you're talking about. So it's like maybe start off small, get these smaller things, build that foundation, and then you can utilize that stuff to grow. And then it's just these new levels.
Yep. There's honestly, so there's, I kind of like to describe it like a pyramid where like at the bottom, it's like guest posts. So like guest posts are an easy thing that you can like exchange with another business owner that maybe has a similar audience to you. You can write a guest post for them. And then you move your way up to podcast interviews. And then you move your way up to pitching yourself as an expert to be quoted in an online publication. Then you pitch to a print. Then you can pitch to local TV. Then you can pitch to national TV. So it all kind of like builds on it. And it's true, you know, part of the reason why PR and press works is it builds credibility and brand awareness immediately. So if you go to somebody's website and you see that they've been featured in New York Times and Washington Post and, you know, all these other websites, you're automatically, just subconsciously, you're going to have a little bit of trust with them because they've been quoted in those places.
Yeah, because somebody else trusted them.
Yeah, because somebody at the New York Times that was writing an article trusted them to quote them as an expert. Yeah. So it builds upon each other, but start small. Like, and I know some people like they get a little terrified. They get scared of like doing a podcast interview and like all that kind of stuff. Like, start small. Like, and some people, they don't go all the way up to national TV. That's okay. Like,
yeah, you don't have to do literally. I mean, that's kind of like the whole idea behind the series, like the interview series too, is like you don't have to do all the things. No. Find the things that work for you.
Find the things that work for you, honestly. So like I have a client, he works in the student loan industry, and in 2018, just on podcasts alone, like him being a guest on podcasts and then his consultations, he made $50,000 just from being a podcast guest. Like, that is it.
Like people paid him, or he ended up getting consultation?
The audience members that were listening to his interviews then booked his consultation. And so he tracks so he can see the return on investment of me, basically.
How does he track, if you don't mind me? Like, how would somebody track that?
So for so he has a service, and his service is a consultation. It's a call, and it's making a student loan plan. He typically works with people with like 6 figures of student loan debt. So these are like big amounts of debt that it's
the big bucks.
So he gives a specific URL link at the end of the interview of like, if you want to learn more. So he gives us tips during this interview. So it's not like he's not sharing advice that people can't implement on their own.
Yeah.
But because of the student loan industry being so complicated, and people
and horrifying and scary, it's like when you find in like an actual authoritative person,
yes,
you're like, can you give me all of the information, because I don't know who to trust out there.
Yep. So he has a ton of content on his website that people can consume for free. He also has a podcast people can consume for free. They're listening to him as him being a guest on whatever podcast it was. And so then at the end of the interview, like if you want to sign up for a consultation, go to this specific link. So it'll be, so his website, he won't care. It's studentloanplanner.com.
Okay.
And let's just say, like, I don't know, the podcast name is Doctors Anonymous. I don't think that's a podcast name.
Okay.
So it'll be studentloanplanner.com/Doctors Anonymous. That redirects to his scheduling link. And he can track to know who signed up from using that link.
Yeah. Or maybe a good way for listeners to be able to track this stuff is like add a question in your consult call.
Yes. Yep.
Questionnaire. Where did you find me? Which podcast?
It would be nice if you did, like, I try to encourage clients to use a unique URL just so you can at least track, like, how many clicks did you get over from that? Because then you can see, like, oh, this podcast, I got like 2,000 like viewers.
Yeah.
And this podcast, I got 10. Well, maybe you'd want to develop a deeper relationship with the one that sent you 2,000 people, where maybe you would want to do like an advertisement on their podcast for your services, or you'd want to do like a training just for his audience, or, you know,
because like his audience or whoever audience is obviously very interested.
Right. Because they're clicking over. And then for people in the product-based industry, where maybe you sell a product of some sort, whether digital or physical, you know, give them a coupon code, give them like a 10% coupon code, and it'll be like their podcast name, so that, you know, anyone that uses that coupon code listens to your interview, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to get that code. So then you can track to see what PR efforts are working and which ones aren't. And I mean, that's specifically for podcast interviews. That's a little bit easier to track.
But even like listening to Pandora, like the music radio, it's like they'll say all the time, somebody will post an ad on there and they're like, use the code Pandora to get X amount off. Like even big businesses are doing this.
Yep, so because they want to know, because the advertisers, they want to know, does Pandora work for me or does it not?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, podcasts, it's a little bit easier. Like whenever you're quoted in a publication, a lot of time, like you can't use like a specific URL.
Yes, but if my people listening have Google Analytics set up,
that's true.
You can see where your referral traffic is coming.
Exactly.
So if it's a big publication, you're going to see, you know, a lot of people are coming from entrepreneur.com within the past 60 days. So I know that, you know, people are clicking over to my website from that, which is always why you need to have Google Analytics set up on your site.
I would suggest, you know, like once a month, like just check to see like where those people are coming from. So then you can be like, oh, that gives you proof of like, oh, PR is working and I need to continue doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So what's like the very, very, very first thing that somebody should do if they're thinking about getting started with PR?
I would suggest, number one, okay, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give like a couple of tips.
Okay.
Number one, I would identify like, what is it that you specifically want people to do once you get to their website? And this is kind of like a bigger, like overall tip, but like, it's really important for PR. Like, is your main goal right now to increase email subscribers? Is your main goal to sell more of a particular service? Is your main goal to sell more of a particular product? Do you have a new product that's launching that you want to sell? Like, what is the specific thing that you want? Because that's what you're going to line up all of your PR opportunities to go for. So, for example, let's say I want to grow my email list, which then I'm going to sell them to my product or service.
Yeah.
But you want to build a bigger audience of people first. At the end of an interview, I'm then going to promote something that's a free opt-in for people to opt into my list. So for me, I have some pitch templates that are on my website that people can opt into, that they can download for free, and then they're on my email list.
Which, if you guys are watching, go and download those pitch templates, because Brittney has given me some and they work like magic.
Go download those. Plug. So that is what I'm going to focus on. Now, if I have, let's say, like a paid opportunity that's coming up where like I'll do like, I don't know, I have a PR intensive, which is a service that people can opt into. That's a paid service where we create your PR plan for you and then you implement it for yourself, or you have another team implement it for you. Let's say I want to do a big push for that and I want to book out some clients. Well, then I'm going to maybe say like, hey, I'll explain more about that service during the interview. Of course, at the end, when I've already given tips and pieces of advice.
Yeah.
And then, the call to action will be like, hey, if you want to learn more, if you want to set up a discovery call, go to this link, which hopefully it's a specific URL.
Yeah.
I don't know. For you to sign up for a discovery call. So then the goal is to get however many discovery calls signed up for that podcast. So just depending on what it is that are your business's goals, because I want everything PR wise, I want it to line up with what your business's goals are. So I don't want people to get into the mindset of like, I just want to become popular and like, that's why I want press. Like, that's not the right reason to go about doing it.
Yeah. And that kind of like, I can piggyback website strategy off of that, because it's the same with like your website traffic. Like some people just want website traffic. Well, I could ask them the same thing. Well, what's the goal of your business, right? Like what goal do you have? What do you want people to do? Do you want them to sign up for this? Do you want them to purchase this? Do you want a consult call? It's like, don't focus just on those numbers. It's like, don't focus on just becoming popular in PR.
You want to convert those numbers. Like,
yeah, like that's the whole point of A, having a website, or B, having a PR strategy. It's like, we want to convert. That's the reason why we want to get more visible. We want to help more people.
Yep, exactly. And so that's why, a lot of times whenever I do an intensive, honestly, like me and you should like hook up, because there are some people that I work with that it's like their website needs some updates, or they need to make those changes first, because their PR opportunities aren't going to translate into a lot of transactions because they don't have their website stuff set up on the back end, or their website strategy isn't as clear, which then it doesn't make you as successful with PR. Whereas then sometimes people come back and they're like, well, I implemented this PR strategy and like, it didn't work. And it's like, well, your website's a mess. Like,
yeah, for sure. And like
people got there. They just didn't do anything because you're not directing them to do anything.
Because you don't have your website journey set up to walk these people from website visitor to conversion. It's got to be literally as simple as possible to have these people solve the problems. So, and it's like kind of with everything I tell people, I was like, your whole online thing, it's an ecosystem. Like it's got to work together, but essentially what you're doing, why are you on social media? Why are you doing PR? Why are you on YouTube? You're sending everybody back to your website. So if your website is a mess, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, your social, it doesn't matter. You could have, hundreds of millions of thousands of followers and it's not going to matter because nobody's going to buy anything.
Yeah, or like if you're on a podcast and you're talking about this certain service and then like people go to your website and they're like, wait, what? Like, I can't even, where is the service? What are the benefits that you talked about? What is the next step? It's just like things like that to you as a business owner might be like, well, it's right there. But like as a website visitor that has no idea about your business and is just hearing about you, you need to make it so clear and so obvious.
Totally. All of our stuff works like together. I mean, specifically PR and website stuff though, like it does. So, we should talk after.
Yeah, seriously. But no, people, you need both. You need the two pieces of the puzzle here in order to get the most results. And like, that's what we want for the people watching this. Like, we want you guys to get results. Yeah. That's the whole point of having a website, of investing in PR and thinking about your strategy.
Right.
You want to get these results to be able to grow your business.
Yep.
I feel like that was a really nice tangent, and I
know it was kind of a rant, but like
I'm sorry, I'm like getting closer to the screen as I'm talking even louder.
No.
Now I need to come back. Okay, so this all sounds awesome, but I'm sure that there might be some issues that people need to be aware of. Like, what's maybe the biggest issue that you ran into with PR, or like you or your clients? Like, what should people be aware of?
Biggest issue. I mean, it kind of goes back to those like back end systems that you need to have set up in place to be able to take those on. So for example, again, do as I say, not as I do. I went on to some podcasts. They had big audiences. And then there was a flood of people that are wanting my service. And I got a little bogged down with all these people wanting this, particular retainer service. And because I didn't have my team in place, I couldn't take everybody on at the same time. I had to delay some of them, or some of them I just had to say, hey, I'm sorry. It's impossible for me to take you on.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for, if you're trying to get people to your email list. If you get people to your email list, but then they're not nurtured in any sort of way, maybe they don't get like a welcome series or anything like that, like they're just going to fall dead in the water, you know, and they're going to unsubscribe probably quickly because they're either not going to hear from you, or they're going to forget who the heck you are and why they signed up for you. So really just thinking about like the customer journey of what you want people to do once they've heard about you. And so if that means you need to get your team in place and get systems in place to be able to onboard people quickly, and to be able to work with a bigger amount of people, then that's what you need to do. Because what if you were mentioned in New York Times? What if they did a whole like editorial for you? There's probably so many people watching right now, and I would be included in this, so this is not a judgment. You wouldn't be prepared. Like, if you got this flood of people where it's like, if that's, a lot of people, it's like, that's what I want. Like this, flood of people throwing money at me, but like, can you handle it?
Yeah. And like what's the end game for you? Like how are you going to solve these people's problems?
Right. Do you have enough inventory of that particular product? Do you have enough time and capacity and team to take those clients on for your service? Like you need to think about that, because once you start putting yourself out there, like, again, press builds on press. So you could just start getting featured in things where you didn't even pitch yourself for them, which is now the case for a lot of my clients, which is awesome because it's like, I literally don't have to do anything. Like,
you wake up and there's an email in your inbox and it's like, you've been featured in, and you're like, what?
Yes. But like we did all that work ahead of time, and they had the systems in place to be able to provide for those customers. If you don't have all those things in place, like you need to set up the foundation first, just in case if all those things start coming in, because you want to be able to provide for those people.
Okay. Yeah, that's something definitely to think about. So it's like, you want to prepare. Well, I mean, you don't really have to prepare for the worst, because essentially the business is just going to be as usual, but like you definitely want to but like prepare for the best.
Yeah. Dream big. Like you just never know, because you never know who's landing your website. I can't remember who I've talked about this with, but it's like Beyonce could like be on your website. Like, or she could like be on your email list. Like, you don't know. She probably has some disguised email. She doesn't have like Beyonce@Beyonce.com. Like,
yeah.
And, so you always want everything prepared and ready for people, because you never know who's going to be looking at your website, who's going to find you on Instagram, who's going to land on all those things. So you want to be ready.
That is a really important tip that I think that a lot of people don't think of.
Yeah.
Especially me, for example. Like I need to go and sit back and look at my systems and processes, because I'm starting to pitch to people.
Y'all are going to go to my website. You're going to be like,
am I ready for an influx of human beings? Like I love all of you and I hope that I am, but I don't know if I am.
Right.
So it's like I need to rethink my own stuff.
Right. No, we're recording this ahead of time. Obviously, this isn't live. so, now it's on my to-do list of like, okay, before this interview comes out, I need to get all these things in place.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point to make, is to be ready for the best. Mm-hmm. Because worst case scenario, nothing happens, and then you're just like, oh.
Right, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
well, but you still get probably like a logo to add to your press page on your website.
Exactly. And
that's already building authority right there, and that trust factor. Just having a press page, which I had you guest post on my blog about why you should have a press page on your website.
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and link to that too, so people can read that, because it's not what you think. Like, it's not, you don't need to have a whole bunch of followers to have all of this authority to be able to build a press page. Like, people hear the word press and they're like, oh, well, I need to be like a huge big name in order to have a press page.
Hey, if you've done a guest post, you can put up a press page. Like,
yeah,
you guest posted on somebody else's website. That's getting in front of somebody else's audience. That's press to me.
And then when you pitch to other podcasts and stuff, you can link to your press page.
Exactly. And that gives you more authority. And it's like, oh, this person has a press page. Like, dang.
Yeah. And when really like creating a press page, it's creating a page on your website that has links.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be fancy. Like, it can be fancy, but like, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go ahead and link to that blog post as well. Okay, so I know that social media is a huge platform for like growing an online business, especially. So can you highlight maybe one thing that you do on one of your favorite platforms that helps you grow your business?
So I would say Instagram is my personal favorite, because it's really geared toward building relationships with people, and that's what my job is. So it really caters to that, especially with Instagram stories. It's become a lot easier to build relationships with practically strangers, all across the world, by just, replying to their Instagram stories. And like, I talk like me. So whenever people meet me in person, I never want somebody to be like, wow, she's like totally different than she is online. Like, I really try to like accurately be me on my Instagram. So I'm not fake, or, I'm not just like replying to people that like I don't actually want to build a relationship with.
Yeah, you're being like authentically.
Yeah, being authentically.
Which is way easier to do
instead
of pretending to be something, because that's exhausting.
That's exhausting, and I just don't have time for that. But I will say, if, nurturing relationships with journalists specifically, like if that's going to be a priority, like maybe you watch this and you're like, I want to build relationships with journalists, they're on Twitter. Twitter is their place.
Okay. Interesting.
So I would focus on using Twitter. I do use Twitter, and for that purpose as well, but journalists are looking all the time for sources and are always tweeting. So use Twitter.
Okay. That is very, very helpful. So if you guys are trying to link up with some journalists, Twitter it is. Go and stalk some tweets. I don't even like use Twitter anymore. I feel like I'm an old grandma when I talk about Twitter. I'm like,
hey, you got to prioritize.
Guys, like.
You got to prioritize, and it's hard to do all of them and all of them well. So like pick the one or two that like either where your audience is, or where you like spending time, or where like where it's like maybe PR's priority. And
definitely have a reason behind which social platforms you're choosing. Do not choose all of them.
100%.
It would be extremely exhausting. Okay, so I know that we went through a ton of really helpful tips. If you could literally just narrow it down, just like to one actionable tip that maybe like somebody listening right now could leave and go and do to maybe help their PR strategy, what do you think it would be? I'm like going like this, expecting you to give me literally like a little nugget.
Think about what your business's goals are. And then with that, think about where your audience spends the most time.
Okay.
Because you need to identify, one, what your goal is. So like have a specific goal. I want to get 10 people for this service. Then think about where do my people spend time online? Do they listen to podcasts? Because if your audience doesn't listen to podcasts, don't pitch yourself to podcasts. That's stupid. Like, don't waste your time. Do they follow influencers? You need to do some research. A lot of PR is just research. So you need to identify what your goals are, and then where your people spend time. And then that's where you should spend your time pitching yourself to.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good tip, especially on like where to get started. Do you have any resources or recommendations on like how or where people can get started with PR?
So a free resource called Help a Reporter Out. It's called HARO, HARO. If you just Google it, like you'll find it. That is, you get 3 emails every weekday, which is very annoying and obnoxious. But if PR is a priority for you, then this is a good resource to sign up for. And it's basically journalists looking for sources for their stories. So it'll be like, I don't know, Forbes being like, I'm looking for female entrepreneurs that run a service-based business, and they're looking for a quote from somebody.
Yeah, and this stuff,
Forbes.
literally, HARO works. Like, I was quoted on USA Weekly.
Yeah.
And you sent me over the thing, and you're like, hey, go and pitch this.
Oh my God, yes, I remember.
And I was like, okay, so I sent in the thing, and I followed, like, the one thing with HARO is you need to follow all of their directions to a T. If you don't, they're not choosing you.
They're not going to pick
like
you.
right off the bat, they don't have the time.
Nope.
So it's like follow the directions, pitch, and like this was like 2 years ago. So I was in business for what?
Yeah, I totally forgot I sent that over to you.
Yeah, like I was in business for 2 years at that point. So it's like I didn't even have a press page then.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I essentially was like this tiny little fish, but like I just took the few steps forward, submitted it, they ended up picking it, and now I'm featured in USA Weekly. Like, what?
And it took you like 2 seconds to put together. I mean, it was a little bit of a lengthier, like you had to answer something.
Yeah, I had to basically like write my interview. But
like
hey,
entire like life story, yeah. But it was worth it. Like, yeah. So sign up for that. It's totally free, and honestly, like it's worth looking at least.
Yeah, it's even if you only do it honestly for 2 weeks. Give yourself 2 weeks. Get these things rolling. See if there's any that catch your eye. You can also reduce the emails, I think. They give you like the option to reduce it to the industry or something. There's like some filterable stuff. I haven't been on there in a while, but they make it pretty easy. So definitely sign up for that. I will leave a link to HARO in the blog post that accompanies this as well.
Perfect.
And then I'm going to leave links to your pitch scripts because those,
cool. Yes.
I'm not kidding. Like I've used this stuff and it has gotten me on podcasts.
Yeah. Again, like
outline to pitch people like this interview.
Yeah. Like it's a template. So like you can't just like copy and paste it and like send it off because it's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
But it gives you a starting place because for most things that you're pitching yourself for, like you're going to need to include a lot of similar things.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of makes it a little bit fill in the blank for whenever you're, going to be pitching yourself, even if an hour a week, like that's enough to start getting you traction.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am a full fan. Of this.
Yay.
Okay. So now the last and probably most important question is where can people find you online and connect with you?
I am Brittney Lynn everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, website, BrittneyLynn.com. Super branded. That's me.
Okay, cool. So I will go ahead and add the link to all of those as well so you guys can connect with Brittney. And then I just want to thank you for being a guest on the Work the Web interview series. I think that we went over a ton of helpful information for people that are getting started or like even just curious about getting started with PR. Maybe they didn't know what PR was or how it could help them, especially just getting started in their business. I feel like that's a major misconception. People think that you need to be a top dog in order to get PR, but really you can become a top dog by getting PR. You can start like
absolutely
people after like an hour of being a business owner. Like
it's literally going to be like my new tagline. Like you can be a top dog by doing PR.
Only if you spell dog D-A-W-G.
Oh, of course, naturally.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for being a guest on here.
Yes.
And then. Yeah. So guys, if you're watching, make sure that you check out all of the interviews in this Work the Web series. I've talked to a lot of really, really helpful online business owners, and they gave really awesome tips on what they've focused on that help them grow their business in a way that works for them. And then as always, if you guys found this video helpful, give it a really quick thumbs up for me. And if you have any questions, go ahead and comment on the blog post, comment on the video, questions for me or for Brittney, reach out to us. We're both pretty active on Instagram. We love engaging with people. So yeah, if you guys want to connect, we are here for you.
Hit us
I feel
up.
like that was like the end of a commercial. We're here for you. Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.